How has Michael Jackson survived cancellation? Survived, oh God? Who wants to tell him? He didn't really. A lot of people cancelled him when the news painted him as a sexual predator and someone who put his child in danger over that ledge. It just wasn't called canceling back then. He didn't just survive it, he beat it. 'Cause he's dead. Hard to say he's survived anything since he's dead. And that's probably a big part of it. A lot of the revelations and accusations came out before the internet hate machine was really a thing. And since he's not still around and active in the public spotlight, it's easier for people to disassociate that part of his life from his music. Not to mention it also came out that he was victimized and abused as a child, which doesn't exonerate him of any claims of abuse towards others, but does at least provide some explanation for the behavior, which is more than what a lot of people who get cancelled have going for them. Well, I was growing up during this time and I recall his reputation was damaged quite badly after the allegations of child molestation. Not completely though. He was seen as a weirdo and a creep even after the lawsuit. The allegations really tinged his legacy, along with some other weird things that were publicized. Just watch the South Park episode related to him. The lawsuit sort of reinforced the idea that he didn't do anything wrong. Some people believed justice was served and others did not. It was still an open question to some when he died. However, he was the biggest pop star of the 80s and going into the 90s, and remains beloved by a lot of fans. He is widely regarded to be an exceptional, expectational talent. He was considered to be a masterful singer, dancer, beatboxer, performer, and all-around musical genius. This sorta begs the question of all famous people, which is how much as a society can we are willing to separate the person from the deeds, arts, contributions? It's not contradictory to hate what a person does, but love the art product they create. This, of course, ignores the obvious fact that social media wasn't quite the machine it was today when Michael died. And the Me Too movement really had yet to happen. Through most of human history, when something like this happened, the person accused of such a thing has had the money and resources to simply wait out the storm, and the public forgets or becomes apathetic and people move on. The victims, of course, are too forgotten. Edit. Clarity. I think the issue with the accusations are so convoluted at this point that it is hard to tell what is what. When it comes to things such as sexual assault, 100% always take the accusations seriously and perform a proper investigation. With that said, let's see if I can put my thinking into words. If you were not around during his heyday or even his lifetime, it may be difficult to grasp just how huge of a star Jackson was. In pop culture, he was an international icon known the world over. Starting with his forced participation in the Jackson 5, where they were basically controlled by both their abusive father and treated as puppets by Motown labels that refused to allow them creative input, to his breakout success. He came along at just the right time, as while his music established him in pop, he also was able to break not only into acting, but create music videos that involved Hollywood directors and production. He performed on practically every award show, created dance moves that are still replicated today, spent an obscene amount of time holding the #1 spot on album charts, received awards from presidents and became the face of major brands. Pepsi. It seems things really started to unravel after the Pepsi incident. A commercial shoot featured a simulated stage with lighting and pyro, one of which set Jackson's hair on fire. He suffered severe burns and underwent treatment, including several plastic surgery procedures. Pepsi settled with Jackson, and Jackson donated the settlement money to a California medical center that funded the Mihaly Jackson Burn Center. This is believed to be one of the leading causes of his drug dependency. Later, tabloids began focusing on his vitiligo condition, skin losing pigment and sensitivity to sunlight. This may have been why he began wearing a single glove. His fame did not diminish in the early 90s, as he was still heavily featured, performed at a Super Bowl, and, this is a personal anecdote, had the videos for new releases heavily featured at Six Flags theme parks. Then the allegations began. In 1993, Jackson was accused of child sexual abuse by a 13-year-old boy and his father. The mother actually stated she didn't believe Jackson molested her son before later changing her stance. Jackson's home was raided, contents taken, and even a strip search performed to see if the alleged victim's description of Jackson's genitalia, which was stated in the investigation, they felt it did not match. No criminal charges were filed. But in 1994 the family and Jackson settled out of court for $23 million. I find this heavily conflicted from my point of view. If I was accused of something like that and was innocent, I'd fight it to prove so, but acknowledge that it could also be the business point of view to just pay them and keep it from continuing. I also question any parent who would publicly state their child was molested and not seek justice but take a settlement. Convoluted. Following a British documentary, in 2003, Jackson again was accused and charged with 7 counts of child molestation and 2 of intoxicating a minor. Jackson ended up being acquitted on all counts, and even the FBI had found no evidence of criminal conduct. After that, he began suffering financial troubles and planned to tour again, until his death by overdose in 2009. The news was massive and split among the public, some saying he deserved it, others the victim. The public was heavily divided. After Jackson's death, his estate was sued by Wade Robson, alleging that Jackson abused him sexually for 7 years. And later James Safechuck filed a suit as well. Both of these individuals had testified in Jackson's defense in 1993, and Robson again did so again. In 2005, both cases were dismissed due to the amount of time between the allegations and filing. Both described allegations in the documentary Leaving Neverland, which did result in radio stations removing Jackson's music from rotation. The estate condemned the film as a public lynching, and associates of Jackson from their youth said Jackson never molested them. A big one being Corey Feldman, who has made accusations of being sexually assaulted during his time as a child actor by others in the movie industry. There have been rebuttal documentaries refuting the claims as well, some of which of the information provided discrediting the accusers. It is also pointed out how the accusers changed their statements, previously having testified in Jackson's defense, then later accusing him of sexual assault but providing no proof or evidence. So, how did he survive cancellation? Some people separate art from the artist. Some believe he was not guilty of the accusations. Others do believe he was a child molester. Having grown up during the time when these accusations first came up, and looking at the details how things went with the accusers, I'm pretty much of the mind that nobody knows whether or not he did the things he was accused of. I do believe he was a very mentally damaged person with chemical dependency issues, but really do not know whether or not he did what he was accused of. Sorry for the long-ass post, but my TLDR is basically that the entire situation around Jackson and the accusations is extremely unclear one way or the other. He was never convicted of anything. I don't think he even had a successful civil lawsuit filed against him, which has a lower burden of proof. Actually, he was permanently cancelled in 2009. Because he's dead. Buying or listening to his music doesn't support him anymore. Maybe he was innocent. He was never really found guilty of the bad things said about him. Surely he was a very odd man and clearly had some mental trauma from his childhood. But I always saw him as someone who was still a child at heart than someone with bad intentions towards children. He was tried and found innocent. So there's that. But the general consensus is quite divided on if he was actually innocent or guilty. There was massive backlash and I do believe it impacted his career greatly. Because he made Thriller. I think because he actually went to trial and was found not guilty. We kind of collectively agree that he did nothing wrong. When it comes to other pop stars, say Gary Glitter, he was found guilty and went to prison. So he has been cancelled in that his music is no longer widely played, sold. Because he's dead. And because some of the songs are such goddamn masterpieces that it's very hard to let go of them. The proceeds from his music go to his kids anyway. And if anything, they're victims in some sense too. He's dead? You know he's dead, right? As others pointed out, he's dead. Might as well ask why nobody is going after JFK for being a womanizer. But it's also worth noting two other items. First, that his scandals were before the age of social media, so there wasn't the same environment of instant calls to action. Second is that there was backlash when the allegations surfaced. Huge backlash. It's somewhat softened after his death since he died protesting that it never happened and there was an actual criminal trial where he was not found guilty. Whether you think the verdict was correct or not, there was a trial. How has Kanye? Aaron Carter, RIP, used to be friends with MJ. He said in an interview that MJ should have taken the first accuser to court and won. Because he paid them off. It looked like he did it and it was for silence. This opened the floodgates for more allegations. Aaron Carter said that his mother tried to get him to press charges on MJ for money, even though they would be lies. But he refused because he liked MJ. That's how he survived that cancellation. As far as I know, he never even got cancelled for supporting Hitler. https www.thesun.co.uk/news/8685670/Michael Jackson Adolf Hitler outfits NASA memorabilia/
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Eracast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.